You're not going to believe it. It's a Saturday morning and it's 9 o'clock. Yes, that can only mean one thing. It's time for the Monster Magic Saturday show. Let's do this.
Wake up, it's a beautiful morning. Feel the sun shining for your eyes.
Woo, woo, woo. Good morning. I hope you've all got a nice hot mug of tea and a croissant to see you through the show. Now, I have had an absolutely terrific week because on Monday, after 30 years, the original Out of Order by Angelo Carbone came back as an exclusive on Monster Magic. Absolutely chuffed to bits. I can't thank Angelo enough, not just for letting Monster have it exclusively, but also because it is such a blinding trick that Angelo hasn't produced in numbers for some time. 30 years ago, he came up with this trick in 1994. Unbelievable. And if you're not familiar with the trick, it is basically 4 cards riveted together and they alternate in colours. So you've got the red 5, the black 6, the red 7 and the black 8, the 8 of clubs, and they are clearly riveted at the bottom down there in the middle. They alternate on the backs as well, so you've got red, blue, and no matter how you spin these cards, obviously because of the rivet, they can't change places, so they'll always stay there. You can sort of spin them around as much as you like. They're always going to be changed. They can't change their position at all. It doesn't really matter quite what you do. They are stuck alternating, unless, of course, you do just that little bit of magic, and then you will see that they have changed places. And you have the 2 blue cards, blue-black cards, red cards, and everything else in place. And this can then now be handed out. It can be examined, and it has been examined. This I've been showing this to a lot of people, and they've examined it sometimes quite harshly. And the gimmick has survived nicely. The cards aren't battered at all, really. The rivet actually helps keep it all quite nice and safe. And that's it. These cards can be handed out, and no one will know how it is done. And in fact, incredibly enough, even when you do this trick for yourself, you kind of keep amazing yourself. I'm still baffled by it. I still know how it works, but I still can't quite believe how it works. It is a wonderful, wonderful trick. It's a great thing to carry around in your wallet. You might be aware, because I know Craig Petty put a video out, that this trick has been copied to death, and not just counterfeited. So obviously, you know, it's sort of widely known in the magic world that tricks get counterfeited and you'll end up with dodgy copies of your trick. But people haven't just been, you won't just find badly made versions of Out of Order by Angelo Carbone. You'll find versions that people have renamed and put their name on and claimed to be the originator of, which is absolutely shocking, especially since one person is actually a member of the Magic Circle and remarketed this as his instant oil and water with his name all over it. Angelo complained to the Magic Circle and nothing happened. Absolutely shocking. He is still a member of the Magic Circle. There's still a chance that the Magic Circle could do the right thing. Even all of these years on, they could still sort this out. But other than that, there's a website in Sweden that's selling a dodgy copy. There's a website in France that's still selling dodgy copies. I know I've mentioned it before, but I really wish there was a way that we could self-govern the world of magic a little bit better. And this is a fine example of why we should, not least because a trick shortly after Angelo released Out of Order called Spectacle was released by a guy called Lauren Mayer, who is actually a member of the Fellowship of Christian Magicians, but clearly doesn't know the 8th commandment, because he launched it as Spectacle, which was probably quite a big hit for him, so much so that Dennis Bear on his On the Tap DVD credited Laura Mayer as the inventor of it. And It's not true, is it? And that is just one example. Angelo has a collection of a lot of knockoffs of this trick. And one of the problems with the knockoffs is that they're not made as well. This is a very, very deceptively simple gimmick, but it's pretty hard to make it accurately and to work as well and to make it examinable in the way that Angelo does. And obviously you should be supporting the creator anyway, but in this case there's a good chance that you get a much better quality gimmick if you do get it from Angelo. All of these are handmade by Angelo, comes with an online tutorial by Angelo, and you get some nice close-up shots of how to set it up, how it works, and how to perform it, and a bit of motivation for it. You can do it as a standalone trick if you like, probably quite good for social media as well, but also you can be part of the end of an oil and water routine, for example. Ian Rowland, Angelo mentions on the tutorial, has a sort of cause and effect where he points out that this packet can't change places, but it will mirror what happens to a packet of free moving cards. And that's a really nice plot as well. As in the words of Genie magazine, I have to say it's probably one of the most baffling self-working card tricks I've ever seen. There is nothing for your spectators to find. You can freely hand this out, but I would advise that you find a magical presentation for it. Even if you just ask them to imagine the cards melting through each other or doing a magical gesture, just so you're not selling this as a puzzle with which they should try and figure it out. It is a dynamite little trick. It's back after 30 years. I'm completely thrilled. I love it. I'm still baffling myself with it. That is Out of Order by Angelo Carbone, $24.99. Next up, we have Hot by Alexander Marsh. Yes, Hot stands for head or tails. And this is a multi-phased heads or tails routine. You hand a coin to your spectator and you ask them to toss it in the air, catch it, put it on the back of their palm, and without looking, you can tell them whether it is heads or tails. You then repeat this another 2 times, and then finally, you have them toss the coin, put it on the palm of the hand. They don't look at it. They guess what it is, and you predict what they were going to say. In my mind, this is a really, really cracking routine. It builds nicely. Each phase is slightly different, slightly more impossible as far as the spectator is concerned, so it really builds, and it can play as big as you like. Alexander does this on stage, but it's an easy thing to carry around if you just want to do it to some friends and family at a gathering, or down the pub. So what you receive are these 3 coins in a nice little box. And these coins are designed specifically for the routine, and there's a good reason, there's good justification, as Alexander explains, in that we are moving towards a cashless society. So the idea of borrowing, in this example in England we would say a 10p piece to do this trick with, is getting harder and harder to do. So you're going to end up bringing your own 10p, and then at some point you're going to have to ask that to be, you want them to sort of examine it or something to make sure that it's legit, which is an odd thing to ask unless something dodgy is about to happen. So to get around that by having a coin that is actually of interest, in this case a particular decision-making coin, then you've got a reason to show it to people, for people to have a look at it and just distinguish that one side's got a head on it and one side's got a heart on it. So that makes an awful lot of sense. Without my glasses on, it's pretty tricky to decipher which side is heads and which side is actually heart. There's a picture of a heart there on the coin, and that's the head there. Having them look roughly the same might possibly help with the method if your audience management isn't terribly good, but personally I would like the differences to be slightly more distinguished, just so people can look at it at a glance. But again, if they've examined it, heads is pretty clear, so they'll know that the side that isn't heads must be Heartz. The tutorial starts with a bit of history as to why he came up with this routine, not wanting to do which hand or anything like that, and he thought heads or tails is a nice alternative. And there's a studio performance where Alexander performs it on D. Christopher, so you can get to see the whole routine nice and clearly. And then it's split into chapters, which is great. He runs through all of the sleights that you need and all of the methods, giving you various alternatives for each phase. And really all you need is a finger palm and a bobo switch. Both are pretty easy to do, and as this isn't a coin trick, it's more of a mentalism trick or a guessing game. There's no heat on you or the coin at all, so it's really nice, especially once this coin has been handed out to start off with, and they've learned which side is head and hearts, and seen the yes and no and so on, and checked out the special coin. There really is no one burning you for any of the moves at any point during the routine. The final phase of the routine, where you write down or predict what your spectator's going to say. You might need a little bit of arts and crafts. There are various alternative ways of doing it. Alexander does it with a pad, but he's normally doing it on stage. He's got a big pad. There's a lovely little pocket piece of paper idea by D. Christopher as well. So you'll be able to do it. You might just need a piece of cardboard and some sellotape and a Sharpie pen, really, to put together for the final phase. And that final phase really does bring the whole trick to a nice, amazing conclusion. Turns it into a genuine piece of mentalism rather than a coin effect. And to round off the tutorial, there is a little bonus section at the end where it's pointed out, because it's head and hearts, you can do quite a lot of presentations and plots on decision making in general. There's a yes and a no, and there's a plus and a positive on the coin as well. So it opens up various different presentations for you. And whilst I'm not sure about the design on the coins, perhaps it will grow on me, I think the size is just perfect. It makes the few easy moves that you have to do that little bit easier. You might fear that the method is quite bold, but you don't really need that much audience management. The psychology is all there in the routine, and if you just try it a couple of times, I think you'll really be able to relax and perform it well. There are, of course, lots of heads and tails routines out there, but I think for the life of me, this is the only one I can think of where the spectator, the participant, can flip the coin with the magician's backs turned and hold it under their hand on their palm. Even they don't necessarily know what it is, and you predict correctly what the coin is. And if the phase is built nicely, it brings it to the last phase, really does bring it to a nice conclusion as well. It is a really well thought out routine. That is Hot by Alexander Marsh, $33.99. And now it's time for On the Rise by Casshan Wallace. I've been waiting for Penguin to send me this for quite a while, ever since Casshan fooled Penn and Teller with it. It is ambitious card routine. You have a card selected and it is lost in the middle of the deck. Very fairly, very cleanly, the participant can push the card into the middle of the deck themselves, and yet when they turn over the top card, it is their selection. The card is then signed and again repeated. The card is put into the middle of the deck. They push it in and it still appears on the top. For the final phase, you do it with the card face up. They again push it down into the deck, and you can put the deck on the floor, and without you going anywhere near it and completely hands off, their card appears on top of the deck. And then the signed card, can then be handed out as a souvenir. It all sounds too good to be true, and I thought it would be, but I think I'm wrong. This has grown on me so much, and watching the tutorial, I was absolutely gobsmacked. I can't really show you the gimmicks that you get in here, but you get a really nice one to help you with the ambitious card, and it is a beautiful ambitious card that Casshan teaches really well. And you can see from the Fuller's presentation or from the trailer just how powerful his version of the ambitious card is, and it's really, really easy to do, and you get a nice little gimmick to help you do that, a gimmick that will hide perfectly in any deck of cards, in a red rider back deck of cards. And then you get the gimmick for the actual appearance on top of the deck, which is very clever actually, and it does allow you to hand out the sign selection afterwards. It's always going to be the King of Spades. The signature does actually have to be, well, the fact it's a king sort of makes sense, but the signature does have to be on one half of the card, but that's easily justifiable as it is a little bit of space on a court card. And the fact that that card gets handed out at the end really does make it a complete and utter fooler. The gimmick for the appearance on top of the deck does ride along in the deck throughout the entire routine, completely unnoticed, and it doesn't hinder any of your moves at all. The only issue with this really is angles, because of the nature of the gimmick, similar to what I said on Warp Zag. You want the card, the gimmick, orientated in a specific way depending on where your audience are standing. That's the only thing you really need to worry about, and that's pretty much easily managed if you're performing for a group of people. You really just want people in front of you, or if you look at his Foolers, the presenter was on one side, and that is fine. You can just have the deck that way round. Having it on the floor obviously prevents angles becoming too much of an issue, as everyone is looking down on it, and that is not a bad angle at all. You can have it in your hands and have it appear in your hands if that's where you want to do it as well. So there are ways around that, but it's just something to be conscious of. And also the appearance is such a shock. You'll probably find that your audience are looking at each other, and which time you can go down and you can clean it up. The cleanup is very nice, very simple. He teaches various methods of doing that, none of which are hard at all. There is a phase where the card appears in the cellophane of the card box. That's nice. I found that a bit fiddly, and actually one of the hardest phase to pull off without looking like putting the cards in the box was incredibly awkward for me. You will need a rider back box for that, something that matches the back of the card if you want to do that phase. The gimmick is durable, but any gimmick of this nature, no matter how well made it is, will eventually wear, become loose, or snap at some point. And Casshan does a nice little tutorial on how to fix it, and provided you've got a pair of specs in my case and you can tie a knot, you'll be fine. It might take a few bits of trial and error, but it's not something to be too scared of, and that is just the price of this trick really. Throughout the tutorial, Cash offers lots of real life experience tips as well, which is really, really good to see. You do get some Kings of Spades in here to get you started, so you can do it multiple times straight out of the box. I'm amazed at how practical and workable this is. I'm also surprised that you get such a really good ambitious card routine as well. It's a really complete, well thought out product. It is On the Rise by Casshan Wallace, $46.99. And now we've got Anniversary Heartz by Nicholas Lawrence. Another take on a classic, not the ambitious card this time, but Anniversary Waltz, or a little introductory phase to the Anniversary Waltz. The King of Hearts and Queen of Hearts are removed from the deck, and in front of their very eyes you show that you can pull the big heart pip off the king and on to the queen. These two cards are then signed by two different people. They are then put in between their hands and they fuse together to become one card, one great giveaway souvenir. Anniversary Waltz is one of the best card tricks. I think Doc Eason describes it as the best card trick ever. The earliest reference to the Anniversary Waltz I can find is it being released by Christopher Carter. I've got a review of it here in the Magic Menu from 1994. where it was just £15. And there's some negative opinions about this trick because it exposes the gaffed card. So there you go. Little did we know what a venerable trick this would become and how many people would be performing it. It is ideal for weddings, couples, or even just two people. Now, what you receive are these gimmicks. These are the gimmicks for the actual moving pip, which isn't hard to do at all. It's pretty much pantomime and you'll have it down in no time. The tutorial by Eric gives some really good tips on how to do it, but it should go something like this. You just pull it off and you just put it down there like so. And that's pretty much it. And then you get 25 of the giveaway cards, which have obviously the missing pip on one side and the extra pip on the other side. There are refills available for these. The only real slight disappointment with all of this is that you don't get to have the cards freely selected as such, and also you miss those phases where the two cards get put into two separate halves of the deck and then come together to find each other, which I think is a really, really nice part of the plot and presentation. But the movable ink and the movable heart is incredibly visual, startling, and pretty much angle proof, and can be done in any lighting situations or anything like that. These actual gimmicks are really quite clever and don't actually have any moving parts or anything like that to break. So provided you store them relatively sensibly, these will last you a very long time. As moving ink effects goes, this is my favorite method to date. This souvenir is slightly more special than the usual double facer that you end up with Anniversary Waltz. I'm not sure if it's worth losing the other plot and magical moments of the traditional Anniversary Waltz for. So I wonder whether with a little bit of thought, you might still be able to keep that original plot going before the cards are signed and before you move the heart. That is Anniversary Waltz by Nicholas Lawrence, just $15.99. And finally, we have Tarot Monte by Christopher Congreave. Chris is probably riding high on the success of Cloak, and this is a re-release, I think, of his Tarot Monte with a slightly different finish. You start by having a card selected from an ordinary deck of cards and just placed face down on the table, or they can put their hand on it. You then introduce 3 tarot cards, 2 of which are a magician, 1 of which is the ace, and you ask the participant to try and find the ace, and they can't. It's not on top, it's not in the middle, it's not on the bottom. They then suspect that there are no aces, and you show that they are all the ace. You then show that you just have the magician, the ace, and 1 card face down. They've simply got to name what that card is. They don't know. You turn it over and it is the 5 of spades. They then turn over the card that they freely shows at the start of the routine, and it is the 5 of spades. It's very much based on the colour Monte by Emerson West, and it's got that nice little kicker of having the chosen card as the last card revealed in the Monte routine. These are the cards. They're very nicely printed. That's the magician, obviously, and they're sort of aged-ish, you know, but they are beautiful. I love the size of them. They handle really well. And as with the colour Monte routine, there's very few moves. There's a frustration count and a block push off now and again, a double turnover, all very easy. And these cards handle really well. Chris also teaches the force from the regular deck of cards at the start. Monte routines are always entertaining, and the colour Monte is one of the best. Doing it with the tarot cards is a lot of fun, and I do like the prediction at the end leads it to a nice conclusion and gives you some presentation ideas as well of tarot and fortune reading and so on. It doesn't have to end with that card being the 5 of spades. Chris teaches other variations where it's just a blank card that they end up with, or perhaps it's got a message written on. If you're doing it from friends, that message can be as cheeky as you like. It's really easy as magicians. We've seen this sort of trick a lot to forget about how magical some of these phases are. The frustration count is very fooling, and people will think you've got more than 3 cards here. It's also really, really entertaining. It is easy to do, and you can have a lot of fun with whatever you write on that card that they've got between their hands. It is Tarot Monte by Chris Congreave, $27.99.
This show is awful, terrible, disgusting. See you next week, of course.
And that's it for this week, I'm afraid. I hope you've enjoyed the show. Please, if you've got any questions, please do put them down in the comments. I read all of the comments and I try to reply to everyone. But otherwise, go on, grab some magic, go out and have a lot of fun with the best hobby in the world. Bye-bye.